Hi guys, we are from the fourth group. We want to presentate our presentation today in the chapter 8 and chapter 9. Let's enjoy our video.
Okay, my name is Supakai Masihaloho. I'm the first speakers. So I want to explain about chapter 8, continuing teacher education, competence required by able teachers. The knowledge and teaching skills are important to be able to become a competent teacher, where a teacher is expected to be able to deal with situations in learning both material and students. Major goals that teacher has to pursue according to Brown, adapted from Pennington, the verse is a knowledge of the theoretical foundation of language learning and language teaching. Second, the analytical skills necessary for assessing different teaching contexts and classroom conditions. The third, an awareness of alternative teaching techniques and the ability to put this into practice. Next, fourth, the confidence and skill to alter your teaching techniques as needed. 5. Practical experience with the different teaching techniques. 6. Inborn knowledge of yourself and your students. 7. Interpersonal communication skills. And the last, attitudes of flexibility and openness to change. So there are the characters of good eagle teachers according to the island. The first is competence preparation leading to degree in CESL. Second, a love of the teaching of the English language. The third, critical thinking. 4. The persistent urge to upgrade oneself. 5. Self-subordination. 6. Readiness to go to extra mile. 7. Cultural adaptability. 8. Professional citizenship. And the last, a feeling of excitement about one's work. Next, in here there are characteristics of a good language teacher according to Brown. The first is technical knowledge, and then pedagogical skills, interpersonal skills, and last personal qualities. So I want to explain you about technical knowledge. This is a character the teacher has to have. The first is understand the linguistic system of English phonology, grammar, and discourse. Second, comprehensively grasps basic principles of language learning and teaching. The third has fluent competence in speaking, writing, listening to, and reading English. Fourth, knows through experience what it's like to learn a foreign language. 5. Understanding the close connection between language and culture. And the last, keeps up with the will through regular reading and conference work with academics.
Let's listen the second speaker.
Now I will explain the other characteristic of a good language teacher outlined by Brown. They are pedagogical skill, interpersonal skill, and personal skill. For pedagogical skills, we must have the information about the language teaching and then uses the variety technique in teaching, designs the lesson plan, and also monitor the lesson. We also must know what student linguistic needs and give optimal feedback to students. Stimulate the interaction, collaborate, and teamwork in the classroom. Uses the principle of classroom management. Uses the clear presentation skill and uses the material creatively. We also create the new materials and uses interactive to create effective the tests and lessons. And then interpersonal skills. For interpersonal skills, we must aware the cross-cultural differences, enjoy and show enthusiasm, and the other appreciate the students' abilities and opinions, patient with the student abilities, and others the challenges the student. We must also collaborate with our colleges and then share the idea and technique with our colleges. And then personal skills. For personal skills, we must well organize and then has the commitment and dependable and also flexible. We must inquisitive, mind and trying out a new way of teaching, and then set the time to continue professional growth. And the last exemplifies high ethical and moral standard. I have explained the other of a good language teacher outlined by Brown, and I hope you can understand about it. And thank you.
Okay guys, next my part, chapter 9 about the communicative language performance. Do you know guys what is the communicative language performance? Communicative language performance is the actual learners to performance in the response to communicative the engagement is done in the class. That means the principle of the communicative language performance is the concept how language is used. In this case, the teacher must to set up the situation to our teacher. In this case, the teacher has to set up the situation their student to set to desire the communicative, and students should be prepared to focus on meanings rather than forms, and use a variety language rather than one language performance. The following of the communicative continuum have two communicative activities and non-communicative activities. What's part of the communicative non-activities? First one, no communicative desire. Second, no communicative purpose. The third, form, not content. And the fourth, one language item. And the fifth, teacher intervention. And the last, material control. So, what the communicative activities? First, a desire to communicative. Next, a communicative purpose. The third, content is a form and variety of language, and no teacher intervention, and the last, no material control.
Okay guys, let's listen the four speakers. Okay guys, I'm Fabiola Miranda Snaga. I'm the fourth speaker in this group. Now, I want to tell you about competency versus performance. Before that, we must know the three main questions in this section. The first is, what is the difference between competency and performance? And the second is, why is it important to make a distinction between competency and performance? And the last is, how do competency and performance apply to the language classroom? Okay, let's look at the slide. The first, how do we know that students have learned a language? We can assess students using formative and summative assessment, but how do we know that students will actually be able to use their language in real life authentic situation? In short, how do we know that our students are competent in the target language? One way to judge this competency is through students' performance. However, how do we know that this performance of in an accurate measure of what students actually know? In this section, we will examine these questions further by looking at competency versus performance. Okay, next, what is the difference between competency and performance? Chomsky separates competency and performance. He described that competency as an idealized capacity that is located as a psychological or mental property of function and performance as the production of actual utterance is short. Competency involves knowing and the language performance involves doing something with the language. The difficulty with this construct is that it's very difficult to assess competency without assessing performance. Okay, next. Why is it important to make a distinction between competency and performance? Let's look at the slide. Noting the distinction between competency and performance is useful primarily because it allows the studying a language to differentiate between a speech error and not knowing something about the language. To understand this distinction, it's helpful to think about a time when you've made some sort of error in your speech. For example, let's say you are a native speaker of English and utter the following: "We swim in the ocean this weekend." Is this error due to competency or performance? It's more likely that as a native speaker you are aware how to conjugate irregular verbs in the past, but your performance has let you down this time. Linguists use the distinction between competency and performance to illustrate the intuitive difference between accidentally saying swim and the fact that a child or non-proficient speaker of English may not know the past tense of swim as is swim and say swim consistently. Next, the last main question in this section is: how do competency and performance apply to the language classroom? As we have learned, competency and performance involve knowing and doing. In the recent past, many language instruction programs have focused more on the knowing or competency part of learning a language, wherein words and sentences are presented and practiced in a way to best help learner internalize the form. The assumption here is that once the learner have learned the information, they will be able to use it through reading, writing, listening, and speaking. The disadvantage of this approach is that the learners are unable to use the language in a natural way. Having been trained to learn a language through knowing, learners have difficulty reversing this training and actually doing something with the language. In brief, it is difficult to assess whether the learner is language proficiency. A more communicative approach to teach can be used. This type of approach concentrates on getting learners to do things with the language. If we can see that this relates to getting and its using state model, the model. By encourage students to eventually learn through the language as opposed to strictly learning the language, there is a more balanced focus on both competency and performance. Okay guys, I think like that our presentation until here. I say thank you so much for your attention, and we hopefully you enjoy our video and you can understand what we present before. Bye bye.